Take a look at the tech news I see on various websites. Start with video cards. Intel Core i9 14900K and the 600 specs emerge, so it's more of a rumor thing. Raptors refresh brings 200 megahertz. Ultimately, they can design as much as they want, but the manufacturing process, in my opinion, is one of the most important aspects. Claims to know the full specs of the last K series for this. Yeah, one of my issues with Intel is that they switch out their platform more often than AMD, and if you only have 2, maybe 3 generations, tends to not be a huge reason to upgrade just your CPU. In terms of core count, only the 700K is going to be different than the originals. It gets an 8 plus 12, so it's 8 performance cores and 12 efficiency cores. This is Intel's thing now. AMD 7900 RX 16GB, launch on July 28th. Navi 3X GPU, I don't know what that means. GRE edition. This is another rumor thing. XTX is the current highest end for AMD. Then they have this lower end one that's not great because, 128-bit bus, 8GB of RAM. I don't know why people haven't trashed on AMD as much as they have with the Nvidia 4060, because it also has the 8GB of RAM with 128-bit bus. I guess just because the price is a little bit lower. This is not great either. Gen 4 by 8. So if you have an old computer, the 7600 is just a bad option, like the Nvidia. They also have a cut down PCIe connection. It looks nice from a spec standpoint, and at the very least it's going to be cheaper than $900, but that's still pretty dang expensive. Core i5 14400, still with 10 cores. Let's take a quick look. There are probably some limitations they don't specifically go over with the really cheap CPUs, kind of related to PCIe connections and stuff. So that's a consideration, especially when you do creative work and you need a lot of peripherals or add-in cards or even USB connection points. ASL launches GeForce 4060 Youth Edition, a graphics card for a child? Low profile ARC A310. Oh, this is kind of interesting to me. 2 fans. I like having 2 fans. They are smaller fans, so they might not be great sound-wise. I'm generally a fan of MSI. They've done some screw-ups like all these manufacturers, but so far the MSI stuff I've used has been pretty consistent and reliable. Main reason this interests me is because it's the cheapest, smallest ARC card. As far as I have checked and understand it, it does have the AV1 encode decode, and it's not any different than the other versions. And that just in itself, that feature is pretty interesting. You could put it into a streaming, like a dedicated streaming computer. Of course, it's got the H.265 encoding, H.264. Also, from what I've seen, higher quality from Intel compared to AMD. And then Intel and Nvidia are generally pretty similar with their encode decode quality. So it's limited to 75 watts because it just uses power from the PCIe connection. Yeah, they're mentioned right here. There's some other noteworthy features found in the more powerful 380, which I've seen one of these at $100. So this should be potentially cheaper. If this were 70, maybe even 50, 60, I would definitely consider one. I have a computer back here I could put it into and make that. I wanted to do an IRL server. So how that works, as far as I understand it so far, is that you have a dedicated computer at your house or whatever. You basically push data from your phone or phones to that computer, and then that computer does an encode and pushes it to YouTube, Twitch. So I could see this potentially, if it shows up in the United States, in my case, this could be a very interesting option for setups like that. Modular PC concept featuring Raptor Lake 4060 Mobile is basically using laptop components for a desktop situation. I'm kind of doubting this is very upgradable, so I personally wouldn't be super interested in it. 4060 Ti 16 GB is already below MSRP in Germany, so it's 20 euros cheaper. It's still overpriced. Samsung Odyssey G8 OLED. What does this have to do with? Okay, AMD GPU. So it has a potential issue with AMD. So it might be an AMD issue with FreeSync and this HDR. So high dynamic range mode. Yeah, that's good to know. New SSDs are melting and crashing. That was back in July, late July, which is now. So quite a few days ago though. Some of the finest SSDs available with PCIe 5 with the Phison controller. This is basically a chip controls the connection between all the modules and stuff on the board and your computer. When used correctly, following the manufacturer's specifications, conditions that trigger thermal shutdown are unlikely to occur. So basically it's designed to be used with this gigantic heatsink. So I guess if you get one shipped without a heatsink and your motherboard doesn't have a integrated heatsink with it, some of them do, as that's mentioned, you still need to put one on, I guess. This one's interesting. TSMC 3nm chips. While TSMC formerly started mass producing chips in 3, it's probably expensive, which is why companies wouldn't necessarily use this for their devices. I would assume anything on the bleeding edge of manufacturing is going to be kind of pricey to use. So it's not disclosing which companies, but historically Apple is the first to get access. That makes sense, because they want a little bit of an edge. Let's see, Ultra Ethernet Consortium formed to adapt Ethernet for AI and HPC, high-performance computing clusters. So basically trying to improve the situation of connecting computers together for artificial intelligence stuff, which probably tends to need a large network of computers. This can't be a bad thing. It looks cool that they're going to try to improve on this technology. And there is also the potential it'll kind of come down to consumer level at some point. As many HPC and AI users are finding it difficult to obtain full performance of their systems due to weaknesses in the interconnect capabilities. Yeah, that makes sense. And also current pushes in AI are basically throwing huge amounts of data at these systems, which in my opinion is not true artificial intelligence. TSMC delays Arizona fab deployment to 2025, citing shortages of skilled workers. Good old United States of America. So they don't have enough people to make it work. That's pretty sad. Confirmed it's sending in hundreds of people familiar with its fabs in Taiwan to Arizona to assist installation. OpenAI could be making an advanced AI model that connects 10 million NVIDIA GPUs. It's reported that NVIDIA has supplied around 20,000 of its brand new AI GPUs to OpenAI, so it'll have the capacity to connect 10 million together, reaching even 100,000 GPUs. Sounds like a big deal, but over a million AI GPUs just sounds way too ambitious. I agree. In my opinion, NVIDIA has been trying to find the best thing for them to profit off of, and AI is currently the thing, so they probably don't care too much about gaming right now. Ubisoft accounts that include purchased PC games are not eligible for deletion, company clarifies. I saw some news about this where they were potentially going to close accounts someone didn't log in for a few months, which doesn't make a ton of sense. But then they added a bunch of specifiers like, oh, well, it's only going to happen if such and such. And I had seen someone say in a comment that they're a military person and they could be deployed for months and potentially lose all of their games in the Ubisoft system. Pretty messed up. Okay, let's see what they're saying here. After a few days of confusion, Ubisoft finally clarified the inactive account deletion situation, the criteria the company takes into consideration before deleting an account. So they're still going to do it. They take 4 criteria into consideration. These are the gaming activity of the account since its creation, the account's libraries, the duration of an inactivity in the account, and the existence of an active subscription tied to the account. Any account that includes purchased PC games is not eligible for deletion. Okay, I don't think I have a Ubisoft account, so I don't really care that much. Although if Steam tried something like that, I'd be pretty mad. Nice thing about GOG, let me pull up their website. This stuff is DRM free, so you can make your own backup. I'd say if you're into gaming, check out GOG and see if it's on there first. And then if it's not on there, go to Steam. But they have quite a bit. The thing is, sometimes they're limited because certain developers or publishers don't want their stuff to be without DRM. Panacea, artificial medicine for them. I highly doubt most of it's uncrackable because you'll be able to download it, save it if you want. You can still use their Galaxy thing client and just do the same thing as Steam, but you have a lot more flexibility with them compared to everything else from what I've seen. PAX West 2023 giveaway. I've never been to one of these conventions. I've mostly been to just anime and comic conventions. Was this the one that was started by a webcomic? So it's pretty crazy that a webcomic was able to make all that stuff happen. Still got their comic going. July 24th, just today. We've got Seattle, Boston, Melbourne, Philadelphia. Android's now better than iOS Instagram boss says, Android's camera phone situation is bad in my opinion. It still doesn't work right. Both of my current phones that I try to do the IRL streaming with and stuff, none of the apps are able to access the ultra-wide camera modules. It's stupid. So I'd have to disagree here, unless Apple's the same and they're both bad. Is AI training on libraries, pirated books? Oh, I get it. Okay. Maybe. Shadow libraries, repositories of millions of titles not used with permission. I would not be shocked. So OpenAI GPT-1 was trained on book corpus for 7,000 unpublished titles, scrapped from the self-publishing platform Smashwords. I think I might have had stuff on there. So there was some type of Z library. World's largest library of pirated books, cracked down by the FBI at some point. When was this? 2022. Anyways, yeah, I'd say it's very likely AI research, whatever you want to call it. They're using data that they shouldn't be using legally. I'd be shocked if there's much that uses fully legal data. I'd be shocked. Workers complain AI is actually increasing the intensity of their work. Editor-publisher Neil said recently had to temporarily shutter, which means close down, the online submission form for his science fiction fantasy magazine after his team was inundated with a deluge of consistently bad AI-generated submissions. That's funny. It's sad. It's almost a given with how people function that situations like this are going to happen and keep happening because people want this quick, easy, I don't want to do anything really, but I want the success from it. And it's not like people consuming this content want the garbage. They want high quality, interesting stuff. Not to say that those books that are kind of like potato chips of the book world where you burn through them, read the next one, burn through them. So there's certainly that, and people make that type of stuff, which is probably could be done with AI. There's some of the worst stories we've seen, actually, of the hundreds of pieces of AI-produced content. He and his team of humans must now manually parse them. Why don't they make an AI tool to parse them? Flex said that his team has turned to AI detectors. I thought they were going to use AI to parse it, which technically might be. So they're trying to use AI to find the AI stuff and trash it. I'm not shocked at all this is a situation. Some Amazon workers asked to relocate to other cities in return to office effort. Amazon cut 27,000 jobs. So they're trying to get people to go back into an office for some reason. It's a weird, I don't know if I should use this word, weird fetish that businesses, people at the higher levels of business have, that they want this. Everyone's there. Everyone's killing themselves or whatever, being super cool, happy in their business, doing the thing in the office with their cubes. Yeah, so I'm an Amazon affiliate, so I benefit indirectly from Amazon, but clearly they're not going to do everything right. Google urges Gmail users to enable enhanced safe browsing for faster, more proactive protection. The problem is with this thing, you're sending data to Google that they can use, like where you're going and such. You're going to have to pass on that. Google, Sergey, the Google guy, back in the trenches. Are they having issues? Or they're trying to get their AI situation figured out? Yeah, I would say I haven't used the AI stuff at all recently. Google Bard definitely was a step down from ChatGPT as I was trying the two. And Bing, which does use some GPT, but it seems like it's off. I'd put that in the middle. So it says AT&T's legacy telephone network may have 200,000 miles of lead-covered cables, represent less than 10% of its copper footprint, roughly 2 million sheath miles of cable. Okay, I mean, that's still a large amount, with about 2/3 of the lead cables buried or installed inside conduit. So they need to deal with 3.3%, potentially discharging lead into Lake Tahoe for who knows how long. I don't get it. It must be a really old line that they wouldn't have known that lead was a problem. So kind of back when they were using leaded gas in cars. Let's look at the tech news. It's fun to browse that stuff. I'll have to look for other sites potentially in the future to have more sources of information. But I enjoy it. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. See ya.